A new report finds that the Republican war on so-called woke corporations has been funded and driven mainly by corporations whose interests happen to be threatened. Ah, so now this was a study done by the strategic research and advisory firm Pleiades Strategy, and basically they noted that the right wing's fight against what they call woke capitalism is partly driven by fossil fuel interests and industry allies. So what they're fighting against is ESG. So ESG, woke capitalism, the right wing says, oh, well, woke capitalism is when you do environmental, social, and corporate governance. Basically, it's an investment strategy based on, that some companies are using, more and more companies are adopting to screen their investments based on environmental and social implications. So now, right wing, they don't like that. They don't like that at all. They look at ESG, which again threatens some of their industry donors, and say,
can't let that happen.
So just this year, Republican lawmakers responded to ESG in 37 states by introducing 165 pieces of anti-ESG legislation. Now, wait a minute. The first thing that I think when I think about that is, wait, isn't that antithetical to capitalism? Because think about it. If you're supposed to have a free marketplace, right, where you can invest in whatever you want, you do these investment strategies or divestment strategies that don't make sense to the long-term health of your business. And let's be honest, you can't really have a long-term healthy long-term business if you don't have a healthy long-term environment to operate said business. Okay, and that's part of their strategy here. That's part of why they're doing this. Again, you would think that that's part of the free market, right? No, apparently the Republicans do not like the free market and have decided to use state power to crack down on companies that use ESG strategies. Now, the researchers who looked into this examined news articles, fiscal notes, and state house testimony related to each bill and found the majority of them bared strong resemblances to model bills crafted or circulated by four influential right-wing organizations. You're not going to be surprised because we've heard of this tactic a lot from this particular organization. The American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC. Then you also have Heritage Foundation. Then you have the Heartland Institute. Then you have the Foundation for Government Accountability. All of them are also affiliated with the Coalition State Policy Network, whose members also fought to pass punitive anti-pipeline protest laws, and who have received funding from groups linked to fossil fuel billionaires Charles and the late David Koch. So, again, you just got to follow the money here. You have these fossil fuel billionaires that are paying off politicians. Again, first paying off think tanks, these groups, and these think tanks go around and they fund politicians. They pay politicians in order to pass anti-ESG, which again would mean, and this is the strategy of ESG, moving your investments away from fossil fuels and into more green energies, like solar, for example, wind power.
Wind.
So that really is not, we're not, they're not really against the woke corporations. They're saying, oh, the wokeness, we got woke.
Woke.
No, they're against them losing money. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, advocacy for many of the bills, according to the report, was also led by fossil fuel-tied groups, unsurprising, including the Texas Public Policy Foundation, which has accepted at least $8.8 million from organizations linked to the Kochs since 2012, and has received funding from ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, and Chevron. Wow. Big surprise. Also, other fossil fuel interest groups, like the American Petroleum Institute, have supported the efforts as well. So, would you look at that? A bunch of, fossil fuel companies, dumping a bunch of money to stop companies from divesting from them, to actually pass it into law that you are not allowed to divest, or else you face certain punishments by not getting, for example, state contracts and having other rules imposed upon you by the government. I thought there was supposed to be capitalism. No, apparently can't have capitalism if it's woke.
Can't let that happen.
Now, there's a good side to this, and it's how unpopular it is. Just 22 out of the 165 proposed anti-ESG bills actually progressed through state houses. According to the report, the dark money funded attacks on the freedom to invest responsibly and hit deep opposition from business, labor, and environmental advocates in state houses across the country this year, according to Francis Sawyer, founder of the Pleiades Strategy and co-author of the report. Our report shows the effort to weaponize government funds, contracts, and pensions to prevent companies and investors from considering real financial risks is not a winning platform. It's a losing platform. And look, here's the funny thing. We live under corporate rule. That's not funny. That's horrifying and terrible. But okay. So now, what you have, though, in this situation is something that happens when you have basically your government being a bunch of different corporations in a trench coat. Well, you have industries that decide to fight each other. And this is one of those issues. These investments are being made by these companies, not because of its wokeness, right? There's no, they're not actually like woke, okay?
The wokers.
What they're doing is they're making sound financial investments based on return on investment. That's really it. And so, when you look at how solar and wind, for example, are growing as industries and have grown, you look at the jobs, for example. Wind has far more people employed in the industry than coal. You have a lot of coal plants that are being taken offline. You also have regulations like Clean Power Plan that have made it so that, it's taking all these older, very dirty coal plants offline. Okay? And so you have that, but then you also have wind and solar getting much, much cheaper, more affordable as the technology progresses. And so you think, well, it's kind of a win on both fronts, right? We get to say that, hey, we're green, we're doing great, look at how much we've invested in solar and wind, and it's actually also saving us a lot of money. So it's good PR and saves money. I guess it's woke, but they don't care because it actually just makes them a lot of money. And that's the whole point. Now, also, part of this ESG involves not just environmental concerns, but also social concerns, as I mentioned. So now companies, once again, will make the decision to try to not alienate members of society using bigoted anti-LGBTQ or racist messaging or practices. Okay? Because it turns out, again, that's not a moneymaker. Being anti-trans, not a moneymaker. Being anti-black, not a moneymaker. Okay? And so it's not acceptable by society at large to be racist and bigoted. So obviously they're going to put their money into not being that way. Okay? Into companies that are supportive. Even if it's just supportive on the outside, rainbow capitalism, for example, the rainbow washing that we, a lot of companies do end up engaging in, saying we're very, very supportive of the LGBTQ community. And the reason that they do that is because that's good for money, good for profits. Bad to be bigoted in today's society. And that shows how society has changed in that way for the better, even though there are people who are trying to take it back. So now, you had this, again, corporate pushback on these bills, which is why they largely lost in these places. Now, in the places where there were bills that passed, they were watered down. That said, it could have a chilling effect, and also could cost taxpayers, again, millions of dollars. So now, here's the thing. about the companies that are the fossil fuel companies that are funding this response to the ESG bills, that are trying to, pass all these anti-ESG bills. They're doing so because they're afraid. Climate change is real. It is happening. We're seeing the effects. Longer, drier wildfire or, wetter hurricane seasons. You have extreme weather events that are happening more often. You have sea level rise, ocean acidification, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, it's going to get to where even the climate deniers can't deny what's going on. They can't deny what's happening literally in front of their face, right in front of their eyes. Okay? And so what these companies want to do before that happens, obviously they want to delay it as long as possible by muddying the waters, of course. But they're doing so to wring out as much profit as they can before everyone realizes that we've literally screwed ourselves and have to do massive damage control by completely ending our dependence on fossil fuels. And that's really it. Get as much profit, as much as possible, for as long as they can. As long as they're able to get away with it. And yes, they will use power of big government, ironically, to stop capitalism, to stop actual investment in things that companies actually want to invest in,